Live. We are live. We are live. We are live. We're live. Oh, look, we're live. Ha! I knew that. Basically, the idea there was basically if I just kept saying we're live, eventually it would catch up and tell me that we're live. It takes like, I don't know, 10 seconds or something between me hitting the live button and then us actually being live. So, hi, we're live. Just in case you missed all of that previously, or are watching this back at a later date, sometime other than live. But yes, this is our tech happy hour. Welcome. We're doing this 5 p.m. every weekday for, well, I don't know how long we'll do this for. As long as we have questions to answer, I guess we'll keep doing this. So yes, but that brings us to my next point, which I don't know if it's too early or not, because probably takes people a few minutes to get on. So if I just waffle on a little bit more, maybe that'll help you. But anyway, basically what I would like you to do, like we're doing this free of charge. We're not asking anything in return until now, still free of charge. I'm not asking you to actually like pay us or anything. What I would like for anyone watching or anyone who has seen any of these and found it helpful to please help us to help you. Please like and share. So if you haven't liked or shared us on social media, please go do that and help us to reach more people and help us to answer more people's questions and get more information out there. Not a selfish thing. It's just us wanting to reach more people and be able to answer more of your questions. I don't think that's completely unreasonable. I don't know. Let me know if you think it is. Oh, hi, Chloe. Again, I think you're like... knock something over. You must be like one of the only people on all of these right from the very start. It's really cool. Thank you for that. Cool. All right. So, yes, please help like and share us, help spread the word. On top of that as well, if you have questions, keep in mind that there is no such thing as a dumb question. If you have a question, please get in contact with us and ask. You can jump on our website at www.thedotmill.com/contact and find all our social media profiles, all our contact information, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, jump on there, ask us your questions, and let me explain a little bit of the background to that. So I've been looking at technology stuff since, well, pretty much as long as I can remember. Okay, maybe not that long. Maybe since like 3, 4, maybe 5, something like that. I was really young anyway. And what I used to do, like as I got older, my dad used to buy computer magazines, and like so he could keep up with some of the latest technology. Not all of it, just like some of the stuff, as it came out. But what I would do is, because I didn't have the internet, or internet wasn't something that every household has like today. What I used to do is then I used to get the computer magazines after he was finished with them, and then read through them cover to cover, because there was no internet access. There was nothing else to do. Well, I suppose there could have been other things to do, but that was my interest. So I read them cover to cover to learn stuff. It got to the point where Dad started buying them and coming home with them, and somehow I knew when he was coming home with them, so I'd get them off him as he came through the door, pretty close to, except he had to start telling me, just let me flick through them and see if there's anything interesting, and then you can read it. But anyway, the point of that was that, like, stuff that I think might be simple to me, I'm finding people are asking me stuff, and I'm like, I thought that was common knowledge. Turns out it's not. So like I said, there's no such thing as a dumb question. If you want to know something, no matter how basic you think it might be, it might be to some people, but it might not be to others. It may be simple to me, but that's fine. We can go through it anyway, because if you have a question, then obviously you've got to find an answer somewhere, and I'm happy to help you with that. So let's go with that. Chloe says, not a problem. I'm always here to help as much as I can. Good job. Thank you. Much appreciated. All right, so now that we've got all the blabbing and the housekeeping out of the way, let's get into it. So, the other thing too is that if you have questions, you don't necessarily have to jump on the live stream. You don't have to show your face. You don't have to talk on the live stream or anything. You can send them in ahead of time, like I said, using pretty much any of our contact details. I mentioned previously, like, email, message, whatever, carrier pigeon if you need, whatever. As long as you're sure that it gets to us, then we can do something with that. So, yes, let's begin. So, I hope you all have your drinks, seeing as it's happy hour. I'm finishing the SARS from yesterday, so that's actually quite good. So look, let's start with something basic. So This one. This is something that I don't think necessarily people have asked me a huge amount, but definitely gets thrown around a bit. What is the cloud and where is it? Yeah, this one's not actually all that complicated. The cloud is just the fancy name that's been given to the internet. I don't know why. Why it became or why it is the cloud. If you look at network diagrams, usually the internet is represented by a cloud, and I think it had a lightning bolt. Like I said, I have no idea why anyone picked that picture or why it's that symbol, but that's just what it is. And apparently that name has gone and taken off. Basically, cloud, anything that's referred to as in the cloud is just meaning it's on the internet. It's really weird, I guess, because you think like it seems like it just goes up to nowhere, which is the internet. Well, no one really knows. Well, no, we can always explain where the internet comes from, but it seems like it's just you send out the data and it just disappears into the ether or whatever, and then is there. Internet's not actually that mysterious, but anyway, that is the cloud. That is what, don't know why it's called that, but that's it. That's very simple. As for where is the cloud, it depends on where the cloud service that you're referring to is. Like there are products that you can essentially make your own cloud, which is basically just you connect your device on the internet and make it accessible from anywhere by internet access. And like technically then my computer at home in high school was on the cloud because I could access it from anywhere I wanted to. You can go and buy products like the Western Digital have a MyCloud device, so it's basically a hard drive that will connect to the internet, and then through their service you can connect to it and access it anywhere with an internet connection. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of services are going cloud-based now, and that is actually very helpful. Like, for example, our accounting software. We use a product or a package called Xero, which is Xero. And yeah, that's cloud-based. All our accounting stuff, we actually used a different one before that. But so for the last, what are we at now? 8.5 years? I think it's that long. Almost 8.5, almost 9 years. It's been a long time, but from pretty much the get-go, we've been using cloud-based accounting systems because you don't need to then store the data on your local computer. You don't need to install software on your local computer. Yes, there's a fee usually associated with it because, well, you're accessing, it's called software as a service. So yeah, that your cloud-based stuff is referred to usually as software as a service. So you pay to access the service and the software. You don't have to install anything on your computer. Generally, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Generally, you don't. And then you can access the service as that. That's another layer on top of just being cloud-based. But anyway, we're probably getting a little bit too deep here. So let's move on from that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have more questions about that, if you have a question about a particular cloud-based service, we could look at that for you. But yeah, let's just leave it at that before it gets a little bit too confusing. The next question, though, is quite a little bit more complicated. So bear with me here while we get through this and try and explain this start to finish. Why does Australian TV sound different to American TV? Now, I've spoken to a few people about this, and turns out a lot of people don't actually notice this. I'll just give a minute. Have you noticed that if you say buy a TV show or a movie on DVD here, actually probably not so much movies, usually TV shows. If you buy a TV show on DVD here in Australia versus say streaming it off somewhere like Netflix, it sounds different. And by sounds different, I don't mean like the audio track is completely different. It just sounds slightly higher pitched. We'll take a minute and see if anyone wants to reply to that one, because it's a fairly common thing. It's been going on for years. I won't go into detail on this one, but back in said high school days that I mentioned earlier, I used to get a lot of TV shows from the US. I no longer do that, by the way, at least, except by Netflix. So yes, we won't talk about how that happened or why that happened or the legalities of that. But anyway, I don't do that anymore. But you could always tell that playing something sourced from the US versus something in Australia sounded different. Well, I could always tell. When I mentioned it to people, then they could tell. And yeah, that's pretty much where this question comes from, because I ran into it again recently. Because basically streaming everything off Netflix now is basically a computer. Like you're getting your media through a device that can play at whatever speed you want. The difference is, which people don't really hear so much about before, is that Australian TV is PAL. PAL. I don't know if you've seen that anywhere before. Like back in the day, it was all over like video game stuff and what else? Probably videotapes, stuff like that. Been VHS, PAL. DVDs were PAL as well. DVDs are still PAL now. Whereas a lot of other countries, including America, which is where most TV shows come out of, is NTSC. I said this is going to get complicated, and this is really where it's going to get complicated. The difference between the two standards, there's a whole bunch of, well, there's a few differences, but the big difference as to why it sounds different coming from the US is that NTSC works on the basis of 30 frames per second. So for every second of video that you see from an NTSC video, they've got 30 frames to show you within that second. So NTSC is 30 frames a second. PAL, however, PAL is 25 frames per second. There's a whole bunch of technical reasons like why we went with PAL over NTSC, but I'm not going to get into that. I don't actually fully understand all of them anyway. But basically, the reason that it sounds different now is because your soundtrack is then associated, like linked to your video track. And if you think about film and how film used to work, like you'd have the individual frames on the film strip. So then the audio would then be linked, like that data is then linked to that film. Basically, you're trying to take 30 frames per second of data and squish that into 25. So when you do that, then that means that you've got to compress the audio for the 30 to fit inside the 25. So when you do that, when you compress the audio, it goes slightly higher. Like when you used to have cassette tapes, if anyone's old enough to remember that, and you used to play them at like a fast forwarded rate, they'd sound like chipmunks. Because when you play it faster, you're trying to compress that audio into a faster or into a smaller time slot, so it plays higher. It's the same thing. It's just only very slight when you're trying to compress 30 frames in a second worth of audio down into 25. I don't know if anybody else actually wanted to know that, or if it's only like a handful of people that I've spoken to about this, but it annoys me. Like when I listen to it, I'm like, it's not right. The thing's not right, especially for theme songs, because when you've used a theme song that's an actual song and then put it on TV and then it's come from the US and being compressed down, it's just like, it doesn't sound right anymore. It's okay. I have issues. I'm okay with that. But that's the reason for it, which, yeah, like I said, maybe nobody wanted to know, but at least there's been a handful of people that I've spoken to about it. So, yes, that's why. Let's move on. So, the next question is, are video game emulators legal? Technically, no, they're not. And here's why. So, basically, stuff that even if the company is no longer selling the stuff, if you can't buy it anywhere else, it's still covered by copyright law, unfortunately. Even if the game manufacturer, like I said, or developer, whoever, is no longer selling the game, if you can't get the game from anywhere else, yeah, technically it's still covered by copyright. Actually, I guess this covers abandonware as well. So basically when a developer has abandoned software, no longer supporting it, it's still covered by copyright. Yeah, Nintendo have a thing about this on their website. I don't actually have that. Hang on, let me see if I can bring that up. Here we go. Nintendo corporate information. All right, people, get your sleeping pillows out, because this may be boring, but let's go through. Questions about ROMs and emulators. So here we go. What are Nintendo ROMs? A Nintendo ROM, or read-only memory, is the type of chip used in Nintendo's video game cartridge which contains the game's software. However, the term is commonly used on many gaming sites on the internet to refer to game data that was copied from an authentic Nintendo video game cartridge. What is a Nintendo video game emulator? A Nintendo emulator is a software program that is designed to allow gameplay on a platform that it was not created for. A Nintendo emulator allows for Nintendo console-based or arcade games to be played on unauthorized hardware. The video games are obtained by downloading illegally copied software, i.e. Nintendo ROMs, from internet distributors. Nintendo ROMs then work with the Nintendo emulator to enable gameplay on unauthorized hardware, such as a personal computer, a modified console, etc. So long story short, basically, you want to be able to play games from, say, your Nintendo Entertainment System. Ta-da! I didn't plan that, by the way. That was just coincidental. But yes, you want to play that on your computer. You want to play that on your iPhone, smartphone, Android phone, tablet, whatever. And Nintendo's answer, basically, as you can tell by the language, which I haven't actually got to yet, is that no, you can't do that. It's unauthorized. It's illegal. Blah, blah, blah. Still covered by copyright. I'm pretty sure that's answered further down. Yeah. That being said, like, I don't think anyone's going to chase you for that kind of thing, but just giving you the official answer here. Here we go. How does Nintendo feel about the emergence of video game emulators? The introduction of emulators created to play illegally copied Nintendo software represents the greatest threat to date to the intellectual property rights of the video game developers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they don't want you doing it, basically. As is the case with any business or industry, when its products become available for free, the revenue stream supporting that industry is threatened. Such emulators have the potential to significantly damage a worldwide entertainment industry, which generates over $15 billion annually and tens of thousands of jobs. Basically, they're trying to make you feel bad and tell you why it's bad, and, well, I guess technically, yes, it is bad. How do I explain this? Look, it's illegal. That's the bottom line. The question is, are video game emulators legal? No, they're not. That's... If that's all the question we're asking, now I'm sort of going into why. That being said, though, I think technically... Oh, wait, no, it says unauthorized hardware in the explanations. Nintendo in the last couple of years or few years released their Nintendo Classic, like their NES, Nintendo Entertainment System. So the NES and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, so the SNES Classic Mini. So they're like mini consoles. I have one of each at home. I didn't bring them with me because I forgot I was answering this question today. But yeah, and they come preloaded with games. They were actually officially released by Nintendo, and they will play some of your older games. They come loaded with some of your older games on those consoles, which are really cool because they're actually miniatures of the actual thing. And the controllers are still the same. Well, same looking. I don't know if they feel exactly the same. They might be a little bit different. Obviously, they're brand new, so they feel, well, new. Which you're probably not going to find with your retro stuff now. Yes. I don't know where else to go with that. There's a whole bunch of questions here. Look, this is... Let me paste the link. This is the link for anybody who is interested in more information. So more info from Nintendo. There we go. So if anybody wants to look into that, that's the link for that. Yeah, and basically it should be the same for every other video game manufacturer, really. It'd be the same stance, it'd be the same thing, but I don't know. Like I said, whether you get busted for that or not, that's up to you to decide, and whether you still want to do that or not, knowing that it is or knowing that it is not legal, that's your call to make. That's all I'll say about that one. My wife and I used to do a retro video game live stream. We stopped that because life just, well, life does. So yeah, there wasn't really enough time in the day to do that, even though we were only doing it every second week. It's just, yeah. We dropped that. But yeah, when we were doing that, we actually were using the consoles, like the consoles that we've collected collectively over the years, to play those games, and then running them through video capture hardware to be able to live stream them out to the internet. Yeah, that was fun because we have, what do we have? We have Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. What else were we playing games on? Sega Mega Drive. There's, what is there? There's a PlayStation 2 there, an original Xbox. Not so much retro gaming, but there's also a Wii and an Xbox 360 at home. So yeah, that was good fun. That was a good question because that's something that I'm personally interested in. Okay, the next question. This one technically is from me. So that new computer that I built last week, that one there, it's been sitting there doing not much most of the week because, yeah, well, this week only really just started, but time's a thing. Yeah, this one is all assembled. It has Windows installed, but not activated yet, which will be up to whoever buys it as to whether they want to pay the extra for that or not. But anyway, that's a personal project too, by the way. Where was I going with that? All right, so the next step of the computer build phase is I'm going to stress test it. So I'll probably start that shortly after this. So I thought I'd go into a little bit of stress testing a computer, why and now. That should be why and how. Please hold while we have some technical difficulties. There we go. Stress testing a computer, why and how. Okay, so actually I'll cover the why first. Oh yeah, that's why I wrote it that way. It's all good. Why you stress test a computer? You want to make sure that there is nothing wrong with your new computer before you essentially, I think as the saying goes, put it into production. So before you either give it to someone, a customer, a friend, whoever, like if you just built it, that's assuming that they're wanting to wait this long, that you want to stress test it and make sure that it's okay before it goes out. And if it's not okay, then you can try and fix whatever's wrong with it. If it's a brand new computer build, and we talked about new versus second-hand parts the other day, so if you bought all brand new parts and something doesn't work, then you can take it straight back to the shop that you bought it from or the place that you bought it from, and you can claim your warranty and Bob's your uncle. If it's second-hand, you pretty much just have to cry over it. Sorry. But yeah, so we basically want to test and make sure that everything is okay with, well, the new build. Let me just have a drink and then we will continue. Hopefully you brought your drinks too. All right, so the first thing you want to do when you're going to start stress testing something is that you want to watch the temperatures and you want to watch exactly what the computer's doing. So in our case, let me bring this up. So the other day I mentioned, I was talking about watching how your computer's performance is and how it's running and stuff like that. And in amongst that, I mentioned this tool, which is MSI Afterburner. Let's get rid of that down the bottom. So MSI Afterburner looks like, well, it can look like that. It comes with a bunch of different skins. I actually have it installed on my computer, so I might as well bring that up so that we can all see that. So like this. So you see at the moment I have it monitoring CPU temperature, CPU usage, the CPU clock speed, GPU temperature, RAM usage, page file usage, GPU usage, and memory usage. That's GPU memory, by the way. This is mostly GPU focused, but as you can see, it will monitor other things as well. So that's what I'm going to recommend for that, because it will actually graph for you as well if you set it up to do this. Actually, I think it does it by default. It will monitor your load, your temperature, that kind of thing, and see exactly what's happening. There are other things you can do if you're overclocking and playing with voltages. You can get this to monitor voltages. You can monitor fan speeds. You can do all sorts of stuff all within this. There are other options, but this one is 100% free, which is like the best price in my books. So that's all, folks. That's kind of helpful. And yeah, it's fairly simple to use. Pretty much anybody should be able to get their head around this. If you want to know more about that or have any questions about setting that up, you can let me know. Oh, Chloe says, I am drinking up. Cool. Good to know. That's exactly what we're here for. I should probably say something about drink responsibly. Drink responsibly. There you go. I've done my bit. So yeah, so I'd recommend that one for monitoring while you are stress testing. And then after that, which one are we going to look at first? Okay, there is two things. This tool is what I would usually use for CPU stress testing. This is called Prime 95. Word of warning though, apparently with some of the later model Intel CPUs, I'm not sure exactly where it was. I was trying to find out and there were people throwing things all over the place. So I'm going to say between, from what I was reading, I've seen problems with it on the third generation when I ran it. So probably, look, you know what, to be on the safe side, if you've got an Intel CPU, just don't use this for your CPU stress testing. So if you have an AMD based CPU, use this one. Basically, this will, this has a built-in stress test option. You can see here it says CPU stress testing, so you can use it to do that. And where am I going with that? Yeah, use that to test CPU load. CPU being central processing unit, your processor. So yes, but if what do you do then if you have an Intel one, Intel processor? Thankfully, Intel have their own tool for that. It's called the Extreme Tuning Utility. Now, usually this is used for actually overclocking the thing, but it can be used for stress testing and monitoring. Actually, this one has built-in temperature monitoring, so that's helpful as well. But that being said, MSI Afterburner that I recommended, excuse me, just before, that will have more information than this will throw at you. So yeah, recommend that one. So either of those two, Prime 95, which is basically number calculations looking for prime numbers. Yeah, AMD CPUs and Intel XTU, Extreme Tuning Utility for your Intel-based CPUs. The other thing that we want to test will be memory. So for that one, I usually go to MemTest. Pretty sure it's this one, MemTest 86. I don't usually look at the website, but I'm pretty sure it's this one. Yeah. And that will test the memory in your computer, make sure there's no errors. It'll run random test patterns through them or set test patterns through them and make sure that it'll store them okay and all that kind of stuff to make sure that your memory is, like I said, okay. It's fairly simple and fairly straightforward. And the other thing that we want to test is our graphics card or GPU, so graphics processing unit. So for this one, we're going to use Furmark, which basically looks like a furry donut. And that will test render that and test your video card and all that kind of thing. Now, all the tools that I mentioned, I'm pretty sure free. There's a free version of MemTest, although it looks like there's a paid version as well. Yeah, free one should do what we need. I'll double check that. Maybe that's not the version of MemTest I used. Anyway, that's about all for that one. So I'll stress test that computer over the next day or two and we'll see how it holds up. Hopefully that'll be okay. Oh, we have a pending comment. Oh, Chloe says I'm drinking 7-Up. Cool, that's all right. I'm drinking sarsaparilla. By the way, I don't know if anyone likes this stuff. I know a lot of people don't like it, but has anyone ever tried to order sarsaparilla from like restaurants and stuff? Barely anybody has this stuff, at least here anyway, as far as I've found. I've asked for a number of places and nobody ever has it. So I just have to get my own and drink it by myself. That sounded a little bit sad, but anyway. All right, cool. That is actually all the questions that I have, at least pre-prepared. So I'll have a look and see if we have anything further down. Actually, sorry, there was an article that I saw before. That was this. Let's bring that up. Let's get back to screen sharing. This one. The tech decisions people love to fight over. And man, I fought over many of these many times. So let's have a look. The first one, Windows versus Mac. So should you use a Windows-based PC or should you buy a Mac? That's the first one. The second one is iOS versus Android. I think we all know where I firmly stand on that one. Apple versus Samsung, which is almost the same argument again. PlayStation versus Xbox, that one I don't really care so much about anymore. Oh, look. We've got some more comments. Most places don't stock. I'm guessing that's for the SaaS. Bundaberg does a good one, though. Yes, they do. Actually, the best one that I found so far, the one that I seem to like the most so far, is Wimmers. Wimmers double SaaS. This particular one I have today is Kirk's. It's not as strong because it doesn't say double, so I'm guessing it's just normal SARS. Oh, Neil says Kirk's is the best. Wimmers is better. It's stronger. Trust me. Go try it. And Chloe says you can at some pubs. Well, I could, except the pubs are all closed right now. That's why we started happy hour in the first place. But yeah, I might have to try that after everything opens up again. Okay. AMD versus NVIDIA for your graphics cards or GPUs, video cards, whatever you want to call them. Chrome versus Firefox. And that's it. Okay. So let's go through these one at a time. So Windows versus Mac. Anybody have any thoughts on that one? Maybe, maybe not. I can't exactly show you because it's not easy to reach, but I actually have a Mac here on my desk. Actually, let's see if I can get that. Look, it's an iMac. Maybe it doesn't work anymore. Oh, no. Ta-da! If you're not familiar with Macs, this isn't actually a very new one. This is actually an older model. I think it's 2009 or something like that? It's taking a little while to start up. And then basically all I'm going to have to do is shut it down. Oh, look. Neil says, think Windows would be more user-friendly. Look, I'm going to disclaim a lot of this, and then I'm going to let you throw in your preferences and your comments about each one and why you do or don't like them. That's okay. But I'm going to preface and frame the whole thing, and I'll keep reminding you and reminding people in general. Basically, when stuff like this comes up, stick with what you know. Whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you know, stay with that. Because there's no point in learning a whole new system just because someone told you that they like it better. You might not. And if you don't know it, it might actually be harder for you to use. And then you'll probably be really angry at the person who told you to do it. So, yeah, really, if you know what you like, then stick with it. If you don't have one of whatever we're talking about at the time, then you could ask for recommendations and stuff. Like if you have no experience with any of it at all whatsoever, then you might want to ask for people's recommendations. But more often than not, just like I said, stick with what you know. Maybe that's just because I'm getting older. Who knows? Anyway, we can get rid of that now. For the record, surprisingly, even though I'm an iPhone and iPad kind of person, I actually prefer Windows PCs. There, I said it. The Apple fanatics know where I am. You can come get me. That was probably a dangerous thing to say out on the internet, actually. Anyway, so look, the argument generally speaking is that Macs are easier to use, Macs are safer, Macs are this, that, and the other. I do find that Mac hardware does retain its value a heck of a lot better than Windows stuff, like your general run-of-the-mill PC stuff. Yeah. Does anyone remember when it was the PC versus Mac marketing era? Like, you know, the whole, I'm Mac, I'm PC, etc. Maybe I'm just really old. Anyway, next one down. iOS versus Android. If anyone has followed my personal brand or really talked to me personally about this, this is a huge one. And I've looked into this quite a lot. And actually done some testing. quite a lot. Like I spent a year on an Android phone, which people tell me isn't a real Android because it was a BlackBerry Key 1, which was a BlackBerry phone with a physical keyboard, which I love, by the way, and still miss today. But yeah, I just, after a year, I couldn't put up with the Android software anymore. I just couldn't do it. Coming from an Android background, it's been put to me that maybe it's whatever you start with is what you're most used to, so therefore what you like and what you stick with. That's possibly true. That's probably true. I'm not going to argue with that. That's probably a very valid point. But yeah, like I said, stick with what you know and what you like. If you know a system, if you like a system, then stick with it. For me, and like I said, again, prefaced with the whole stick with what you know and like, I didn't like Android. I still don't like Android. It was... Everyone tells me the back button is awesome. That's fine. If you like the back button, that's great. I hated the back button because it wasn't consistent. The back button would not necessarily just go... Well, it would go... I don't know. It would do different things for me. Sometimes it would go back to the app that I was in. Sometimes it would just go back within the app. If you opened something from a notification in an app, then you'd find that would be a layer. You press the back button and it goes out to what you were in the app, not to the app that you were in before you tapped the notification. Just the inconsistency drove me nuts. Apps crashed more for me. There's no unified API. So let me break that down and step back a little bit. API is your basically what applications are made with, the framework that applications are made with. It's not, there's more than one available on Android, whereas iOS only has one. I could go on. I'm not going to. Stick with what you know and like. From the whole, I made the thing very public when I did another test a little bit after that. And what I did find was that Android users are much more vocal than iPhone users in trying to convert you. Like I've said, and will keep saying during this, and telling people in general, stick with what you like and know. I'm not going to try and convert you to an iPhone. Not realistically anyway. I probably will as a joke, but realistically, stick with what you like and know. That's it. That should be like... Hang on. I can put that up. There we go. Stick with whatever you know and like. Got it? Cool. If you want to talk to me about why I didn't like Android, then I can go on and on and on about that. Apple versus Samsung. This was what I did shortly after that. Oh, wait. Here we go. Chloe says, I started out Apple and then I went to Android and I like it. I'm assuming that's better. But recently I was looking for a new phone and I wanted an Apple, but the screen is way too small. That's fair enough. John says, on that, what you start with thing. Oh, yeah. They were doing that back in the 2000s in the USA. Like at school, they were giving out free phones and like cell data, etc. for doing well at classes. Turns out if you spend a lot of your formative years using Samsung phones, you're more likely to continue to buy Samsung because you already know the layout/UI. Yep, that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I may be in trouble. I bought a Google Nest Mini, at home. But that being said, our kids have iPhones that they can play with, not connected to a mobile network, and I don't think we even connected them to Wi-Fi yet, so they're just standalone phones, and they can't play with them all the time, only every now and then. But anyway, I've started. That wasn't exactly intentional. I don't think that's just what we had and what we prefer. So I guess maybe that was intentional, but not like an Android is evil type intentional. Anyway, Apple versus Samsung. So Apple versus Samsung, I tried that as well. I used a Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, I think it was, for a week alongside my iPhone 7, which is what I had back at the time. And yeah, I think I made it just short of a week with the S8 Plus, and I'm like, nah. There was a reason I went back to iPhone, and there's a reason I'm staying with iPhones. And like, I think the biggest thing that people were arguing for ages was that Samsungs are cheaper. I don't think they are anymore. They're almost the same. I think some models were more expensive. I don't know if that's changed now, but at least recently they were very close. Yeah. The other thing too is that, and I will give this to the Samsung side, that Samsung is more, or Android phones in general, at the moment seem to have the newer technology first. They're stepping out and taking the initiative to try new things more than Apple is, and then Apple's playing catch up. Hands down, I have no problem giving that to the Android side because since Steve Jobs left, Apple, the earth, whatever, however you want to view that, yeah, the innovation definitely seems to have gone down. I have no problem with saying that. Plenty of other people have said that. Anyway, PlayStation versus Xbox. I do not have an opinion on this one. Like, I think it came down to, I started buying Xboxes because I wanted to play Halo, which is pretty much the only game I played on Xbox for a long time. I think I played Mortal Kombat a little bit. I don't think there was much else I played on Xbox, not as much as Halo anyway. So that's why I bought an Xbox originally, like back at the first one, and why I still have an Xbox and an Xbox 360. But yeah, these days, whatever you prefer, really. And I think it really comes down to what games you want to play, because a lot of games are only on certain platforms. So game manufacturers have done well with that. Back in the day, though, I used to argue with people over, oh gosh, this is getting way back, Nintendo 64 versus PlayStation. I actually chose that as a debate topic for, I think it was like year 9 or 10 English or something. And I actually won. So the biggest thing was I played the mod chip card, which goes back to the emulators we were talking about. So you used to, I don't know if you can anymore, but you used to be able to get a chip installed in your PlayStation so that you could play copied games, because there was a level of copyright protection there. You could bypass that copyright protection, and just with a computer with a CD burner, you could copy PlayStation games and then play it using a PlayStation that had a mod chip. I argued the point because people, the opposing team, somehow I wrote 5 other people to go for and against. So 2 with me in 4 Nintendo 64 and then 3 on the other side on PlayStation. I have no idea how I managed to do that. But anyway, maybe there was more nerds in the school than I thought. But either way, I'm pretty sure I won off the back of mod chips are illegal. And that pretty much shut down the entire argument because the teacher was not keen on us going on the side of breaking the law. Remember, emulators are illegal. John says, also going away from cartridge was a big deal. Yes, it was, but now it seems to have gone back. Because cartridges now, I think, pretty much are micro SD cards, aren't they? I haven't actually looked into the new systems. But yeah, it was a big thing for a while because you couldn't store much data. Like flash memory or memory chips weren't huge back then, so you could store much more data on a disk than you could on memory chips. It's funny how that's gone the other way now. You can store a heap of data on memory chips, whereas disks are now lagging behind. Yeah, anyway. All right, next one, AMD versus NVIDIA. This is for all the graphics card and gaming nerds out there among us. Yeah, I don't think I actually have a preference between the two. And most people probably, like, if you haven't looked into the specs and stuff, you probably won't notice a difference between the two. Unless, of course, we're talking about the latest technology, which is your ray tracing, which I'm pretty sure only the NVIDIA does so far. Should probably double check that one. But yeah, I haven't heard of AMD ray tracing yet as far as I remember. You know what? Let's Google that quickly. AMD ray tracing. AMD has a plan for ray tracing. 19th of March, so not that long ago, AMD shows off ray tracing. Okay, so I don't think it's out yet. But anyway, if you want to know more about that, we can chat or research together or whatever. But yeah, I won't go into that too much. I will say, though, as far as I've seen, I think NVIDIA is a little bit more power efficient than AMD. Well, at least they used to be in the older series. I'm looking at most of the older stuff. I don't buy a lot of new hardware stuff, so yeah. And then the last one on the list is Chrome versus Firefox. I think a lot of people, well, as far as I've seen from customers' computers, Chrome definitely seems to be more popular. And from talking to other people, Chrome is definitely more popular. Chrome has a lot of inbuilt stuff, and a lot of stuff will only work with Chrome, which is interesting. Hang on. There is a new version, though, of Microsoft Edge, which I think we talked about back on like the first live stream, like tech live stream that we did. Let me just bring up that link again. So just in case you missed it, which you may have because it's going back a little while now, this, come on, here we go. This is the download page for the new Microsoft Edge. Oh wait, we have another comment from John. A lot of games ended up having to make some massive compromises due to data space. Oh yes, they did. This is going back to the memory card versus disc thing. Hence, like the Nintendo 64 had an odd thing so you could play discs. Pretty sure it was late in the run and didn't see much light outside of Japan. I remember they were going to re-release Zelda Ocarina of Time with a disc expansion. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have seen that. I wonder if I can find it. I think it was the Nintendo 64 DD. The Nintendo 64 disk drive. Oh, look, good old Wikipedia. Let's have a look at this. So this was the Nintendo 64 DD. It was an edition underneath the console that, yeah, like it said, would take discs. And down the bottom here, it says Nintendo 64 DD and Nintendo 64 add-on released only in Japan in 1999. So there you go. I'm not going to read all that now. But yes. John, yes, you are right. And Neil says, yeah, with me. So yeah, that's when we were looking at the new Microsoft Edge. The new Microsoft Edge, just in case you missed the first live stream, is based on the same engine called Chromium that Google Chrome is based on, to the point where I'm pretty sure I read that you can install Chrome extensions on Edge, and anything designed for Edge, I think, can be installed on Microsoft Chrome. Not sure if it goes the other way, but at least it's Chrome extension compatible. So yeah, so that's interesting. The other thing is that the Opera web browser, which if you haven't heard of before, is not as widespread as either. I don't know if anyone uses it or not. This one. So the Opera web browser, this logo up here, top left, that is also based on Chromium as well. But yeah, same thing, back below me. Stick with whatever you know and like. So the argument here is Chrome versus Firefox. I actually use Firefox, even though Chrome does work with a lot more things. The reason for that is because anyone who's seen me working on my computer can attest to the fact that I have about probably 50 plus tabs open at a time, because I just have so many things to do and so many things to monitor and watch and check all the time, that I just keep them all open and basically use tabs as a to-do list. So if I have something open, look, you can see how many tabs I've got just for this live stream up the top here, and that's not including the actual live stream itself, which is actually running in Firefox. I use Chrome for the live streams to keep it separate to everything else that I'm doing. But yeah, I use Firefox because Firefox is much better at memory management than Chrome. If it wasn't for that, if Chrome fixed their memory management, if they made it better, I'd probably go to Chrome. That's pretty much all there is to it. Even though I have 32 gig of RAM, I'm still worried about RAM usage. Don't ask me why, I'm probably just paranoid. Either that, or the old saying, or the saying that I keep going back to, is that I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, which you could apply to anything really. Yeah, probably not best to apply that to supermarket shopping like toilet paper right now, though. Just saying. Oh, look, John says right now Chrome is using 6 gig of my RAM. Yep. Okay, well, just for the fun of it, let's have a look at this then. So at the moment I have, let's see if it'll tell me how many I have. I have 76 tabs open in Firefox at the moment. And Firefox is only using just under 4 gigabytes of RAM. Whereas Chrome, on the other hand, Chrome is open with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tabs, and I'm using just under 600 megabytes. Yeah. So wait, if I want to get to the same amount, so 73 or 76? Either way. Oops. It's about 8. So if I'm using roughly 600 megabytes of RAM, but I'd have 8 times the amount of tabs open, that's 4,800. So that's roughly 390. That's, yeah, okay, that's a lot. That's 80% of a gigabyte more if I was running Chrome. That's assuming that all tabs use the same and that all tabs are created equal, which they probably aren't. Now I've lost my actual tab for the live stream. Here we go. Oh, John said that is with about 30 tabs open. So with 76 tabs, I'm using less than your 6 gig with only 30 tabs open. That's a little bit of a worry. But yeah, that's like I said, that's why I use Firefox instead of Chrome. All right, cool. That was all from that article. I'm going to start stress testing that machine shortly. Actually at the hour mark. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know. Well, look, let's go through the whole thing again. So look, Tech Happy Hour is at 5 o'clock every weekday. So Monday to Friday, including our public holiday yesterday. So, don't let that stop us or stop you asking us. And yeah, we will answer your tech questions 100% free of charge. Just let us know what they are and we will find the answers for you or give the answers for you depending. Hopefully we get all the information you need. If you want any other information or if you want something fixed personally, then you can contact us about that. But look, the thing that I said at the start, and I'll recap again now, is that we're doing this 100% for free. We're not charging you anything for it, but I would like to take a minute to ask you to help us to help you, which is basically please like and share. So our pages, our social media, our content, anything, just help us to get the word out there so that we can help more people. Yeah, if you know someone who uses technology, basically any other human being, please let them know about this, and hopefully we can help them with their technology as well. And on top of that, there is no such thing as a dumb question, because as I explained, a lot of this stuff I view as common knowledge. Turns out with some of the questions that I've been getting, not all of this is necessarily common knowledge, but because I've been looking at it since the age of whatever it is, 3, 4, 5, whatever, when I started with computers, I just assume everybody knows what I know, or at least everybody knows at least a fair chunk of what I don't know. Some things I just consider basic, but they're not so much. Yeah, so there is no such thing as a dumb question. If you have a question, you've got to find an answer somewhere. So feel free to hit us up and ask us, and you can find any of our contact details at www.thedotmill.com/contact. There you can find links to our social media, email address, whatever. You can contact us to find out how to get us a message by carrier pigeon if you need to. But yeah, if you don't want to appear live in the live stream, which you don't have to, you can send us your question at any time and we'll include it in one of the future live streams. But But yeah, that's pretty much it. We've still got another 5-ish minutes, but I think nobody has any other questions. We'll cut it off there, and we'll be back again from 5 o'clock tomorrow, and hopefully got some more questions to answer for you. Actually, I do have other questions that I just didn't have prepared for this time. And I'm not going to start going through any of those now because, 5 minutes to go. They're not necessarily quick and easy questions to answer. And, we'll get to those as soon as we can. Otherwise, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.